Well, hello and welcome back to another week on the allotment. And I don't know if you can hear it, if the sound picks it up, but it's raining. It's been raining since about 1-2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Yeah, it's been a pretty depressing week, I have to say. It's rained on and off all week. It's raining now. The forecast for next week is mostly rain. And actually the forecast up till the end of March that I've seen, there's a couple of dry days in it. I'm sure that will change as we get closer to them, because they don't really know the weather forecast more than a day in advance as far as I can see. But yeah, it's all very depressing. Anyway, it hasn't stopped me completely. I helped John earlier in the week with his new plot. We'll see a few clips of that in a minute. And at home I'm working in the greenhouse, in the potting shed, sowing seeds, pricking them out, potting them on. So yeah, I'm managing to keep busy, but the plot's going backwards. Even the internal drainage ditches that I dug aren't able to cope. It's flooding through from behind the camera, it's coming under these slabs again, and it's flowing out onto the plot. So, you know, there's nothing to be done. You know, you can't change it. As well as, you know, continually ruining the allotment, it's stopping me working. Normally by this time of year I'm back into my full summer routine of grass cutting, you know, and proper gardening in people's gardens. But it's, you know, I'm probably working at about 10 to 20% of my normal workload, simply because you can't, you know, people are saying don't bother coming because you can't walk on the garden. So yeah, it's all a bit depressing. And again, I go back to Monty Don in 2022 when we had that hot summer. Ooh, we need to prepare our gardens for drought. It has not stopped raining since he said that. Anybody who was stupid enough to prepare their garden for drought is now reaping the rewards of their stupidity. Back to the plot. You are aware that John, my friend over there, has got another allotment next door to him, which is great news. It's great news for the site, and it's great news for John. And it's great news for me because, you know, we've got these two plots between us that are just derelict waste ground. They're never used. And of course my neighbour's plot, I mean, he hasn't been up this year. So yes, great news for John. And earlier in the week I gave him a bit of a hand to start clearing the mess that is the plot. So let's have a look at a few clips. Well, it's lovely, the sun's come out now. But yeah, this is the state of play on John's second plot as we speak. A huge pile of just rubbish. Rotten wood. Less rotten wood. And then all these pallet collars that are rotten. In fact, it looks like John's dug some out there, and they're all rotten. So the greenhouse at least is tidy, and then more pallet collars hidden down here, and then just loads more rubbish and junk. That's the problem with this site, it's getting rid of all the rubbish they've accumulated. Anyway, he'll sort it out. every day, does a little bit. Well, I showed you my new seed box last week, and many of you have them, and this is the finished item. I got the labeler from Carl, so thank you, Carl, and spent a happy 10 minutes or 15 minutes yesterday in the dining room putting the seeds in and labelling them. Cheryl inevitably got involved. She saw me doing it and looked over my shoulder and sat down next to me and then took over. So that Tupperware box we had in the kitchen already has got the larger packets in, so that's beans and peas, and then everything, and I put them all in, and then Cheryl said, you haven't put them in alphabetically. I said, I don't think I need to. So obviously we discussed it and we did what she said. So she put them in alphabetically, so basil, beetroot, brassicas, carrots, celery, etc. And all my seeds fit in this one box with that little addition, except the one box I had peppers left over, so I've put them parsnips and peppers in the same box. But I'm very happy with that. It's very, very neat, very tidy, keeps them airlocked. Could not be happier. Much, much better system than the old metal tin I used to use and the paper bag. So I can thoroughly recommend this system. On another rainy afternoon earlier in the week, I was having a bit of a sort out in here, and I pulled this out not knowing what was in it. It's full of onions. I didn't know they were there. So I'm going to put them in one of those blue trays and take them home. But because they've been kept so dark, they haven't sprouted, which most of the ones at home have already. So really thrilled to find them. Well, I wasn't completely idle last week. On a couple of afternoons when it was fairly dry, I wheelbarrowed in a considerable quantity of the cow muck from the pile up the back onto this bed. Now I've developed this technique that works for me, and what I do, this is going to be pumpkins and squashes this summer. So I cover the bed, and I've taken the opportunity to really top dress that heavily. You can see it's quite high, so there's a good few inches of cow muck under there, but I leave this strip, and this is where I plant my pumpkin plants. They're planted there, and then I put the bottles upside down next to the plant so that I can water them at the height of summer, and then I train the plants across this plastic floor. That helps to warm the soil and makes a nice warm environment for pumpkins, which like the heat. And I think they'll really benefit from that. And of course then in the autumn, when the pumpkins are finished and I take the plants off the ground, when I lift that plastic, I'm expecting to see that cow muck very much rotted down and starting to work its way into the soil, if it hasn't completely. So I've done that bed. And this week, I might start today, I'm not sure. The ground up by the cow muck is extremely waterlogged, and it gets quite messy going up there with a wheelbarrow. But this smaller bed is going to be growing the butternut squashes, so I've got to do that one in the same way as I've done this one. So there's a job. And right next to my flowing irrigation ditch, here's the rhubarb plant that I forced this winter. And there you can see the excess plant that's growing up under the membrane. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm going to cut that out and give that crown that's under there to John. Well, here on the picnic table I'm keeping my clubroot resistant brassicas. These were sown in October They've been in the greenhouse over winter. I've potted them into larger pots, and ordinarily they would now be in the ground under some enviromesh, growing away for an early crop in May, June. Unfortunately, the bed they're going in is underwater, so they're sat here with this bit of netting over to keep the pigeons off. I don't want to tempt fate, but of all the pests we have on this plot, and like everybody else we have many, the one thing I've never been bothered by is pigeons, because we're not in an urban environment. You know, pigeons do fly around here, but they don't seem to come to the plot much. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever seen a pigeon on my plot. There's tempting fate for you. So they're just waiting for the ground to dry up, but they've been potted on, so they'll be fine for another couple of weeks. And in the background is all the snowdrops out of our garden at home. Once they'd finished flowering and they were in the green, as they're called, I dug them up and potted them up, and I've brought them up here to store them. And of course the reason being, if our ambition comes to pass, when they flower next year we won't be in that house. So I dug them up while I know where they are, and I'm keeping them there, hopefully to move to our new home at some point later this year. We shall see. Well, the weather's dried up now, so I'm able to work, but I don't think I'll be going for long because it's still pretty miserable. But I'm happy to have achieved that. That's a good thick mulch of cow muck, and I shall cover it next time I come up. Job done. Well, that's one of the two pieces I've chopped off. I'm going to take and put them on John's plot now. They'll make nice plants. Whoa, what a contrast. It's blooming lovely out there now. Sun's shining, there's a brisk breeze in the air. How different to this morning. I couldn't hear myself speaking here. Anyway, it's quite early. It's nearly 1 o'clock. But I'm going to go home because right now there's more I can achieve in the garden, in the greenhouse and the potting shed than there is up here. I'm glad I got those couple of jobs done. mulching that bed, chopping out that bit of rhubarb, and John will enjoy that. A nice little crop of more forced rhubarb to take home. One of the other benefits of forced rhubarb is it's so sweet and tender that you don't have to peel it. It all just goes in the pot. I know that because my wife told me, not because I did it. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Thanks to all those who've subscribed, and thanks if you can give me a big thumbs up. Thumbs up or thumbs down, you know, apparently they all count. So I will be around next weekend, I think. Who knows what the weather will be doing then. I hope you have a good week in your garden. Try and stay dry if you can, and I shall see you around next weekend. Look after yourselves, take care, bye for now.